Now that the backing plate is all fit on the case, we need to make a boss and weld it on here for the oil temp sensor. I'm going to cut it out and make it out of 1/4 inch plate. Well, actually, I'll probably cut a 1/4 inch thick piece off some bar stock. And we'll drill a hole. I'll probably leave the hole small. I plan on using a gauge that uses a sender that's 1/8 inch pipe thread. But I'll just leave it welded on with a small hole in the middle in case I need to change that plan later and drill it out and tap it to something bigger. Little boss is ready to go. I'll put a 3/16 hole in the middle. I'll go ahead and drill that through the backing plate and then bolt it to the backing plate to where I can weld around it without having to move around. And then later on I can drill it out to 1/8 inch pipe or 1/4 inch if necessary. All right, got it cleaned up and in the vise, should be ready to fuse it together. And there we go. We got a nice little spot to put in the oil temp sending unit. We'll drill that out whenever we for sure get the right gauge. So right now I think I'll put the backing plate back on and we'll work on the little plate that goes on the bottom for the oil drain. We need to cover up this hole in the bottom now. And the plans call for this plate to be made out of 1/4 inch aluminum, just like the backing plate. And here is the original. And it's got a cutout, well, where this step is there, so it won't seal to the back case even if you cut it off. Now, I probably could weld that in and make it work, but we'll just make one out of aluminum like they call for, because we can use this as a pattern. Just instead of bringing it around, we'll just bring it out straight. So right now, I need to pull the studs out, and we'll smooth all this down because there's a little bump there from welding. Make sure it all lines up good with this back plate. And then we'll start cutting out the new one. Well, I pulled the studs out and got that smoothed out like I wanted. It was a little more difficult than some of the other stuff because you can't just, since we got raised sections here, you can't just slap that on the sanding belt. I used a straight edge and the flap wheel and just gradually brought everything down to where it's nice and smooth and flat. And then I thought the project was done because I couldn't find any 1/4 inch plate. I didn't have enough left over off this, and I'll use that in some other places. But I did find a piece in the scrap bin. So I'm going to take this cover plate, trace around it, mark the holes, but just keep it straight, and then I'll fit it on there and trim it down. The drain plate's all cut and fit on there. Flush along there and follows the contours of the old one the rest of the way. So now all that's left is to put a drain plug in the bottom. So we'll drill and tap that out to 1/2-20. Went and got a new drain plug at the auto parts store, and then that'll be done. All right, drain plug is in. Probably end up cutting that down to save weight later on, but right now it's fine. Plugs in there. So that's a couple more things off the list. The only other thing I might need to do to this is there, on the plans it shows putting an 1/8 inch pipe fitting in there for a drain from the oil separator. When you look at the plans, it shows a couple of different ways of doing the breather. One of them is an assembly with a reed valve on the inside, and the other one is it's just a canister, and it looks like it goes to a separate oil separator. And I assume the line off the bottom of that separate oil separator would go down to that fitting on the bottom. But then they've also got the ultralight version, which is basically a plate, a little canister, and then a pipe, short pipe sticking up in the top. So I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. From some of the videos I looked at, it looks like they have like the reed valve plate and then just a hose running down to the ground, or running down to the bottom of the fuselage. So before I drill and tap any fittings in that oil plate on the bottom, I'm going to make sure I know exactly what kind of ventilation, crankcase ventilation system I'm going to use. I will figure that out down the line somewhere. Like and subscribe to keep up with this build, and thanks for watching.